It always starts the same way. You're alone at night, the lights are low, the vibes are chill. You're playing your favourite video game on your handheld console, and then something creaks. You tell yourself it's just the house settling. Maybe it's the fridge, or the cat or dog you don't actually own. You hear whispers, you feel a chill. You wonder if you're about to become the next based on true events Netflix documentary. Is it a ghost? Is it a demon? Is it the spirit of the old man who used to live in the house before you? You go to investigate. And then science gets involved. Hey guys, Damn World, MrGrey, Dandalf the Grey. Now, I've been fascinated by the natural causes of supposed hauntings throughout the years. Now, even though I'm a skeptic, I've been fascinated with this kind of stuff, the science of stuff when it comes to paranormal investigations, paranormal hauntings, since I was a kid. So I thought we'd go over the brief rundown, the brief history of infrasound, and could it be the cause of your spooky little creaks and bangs at night, and why you think you see shadows at the corner of your eye? Because I've seen shadows at the corner of my eyes after a long night of not sleeping. But anyway. Infrasound refers to sound waves with frequencies below the lower limit of human hearing, which is below 20 Hz. Although we can't hear it, we can sometimes feel it as pressure, vibration, or that unease feeling you get at night when you're alone watching Netflix. The study of low-frequency sounds began in the 19th century, and they mainly used it to detect earthquakes with seismic activity. They discovered they could detect vibrations from thousands of miles away, and this is how they detected earthquakes, or how they discovered that they could detect earthquakes and explosions and stuff like that. The term infrasound was originally came up in the 1930s. It was also used in World War I and II, mainly World War II, to detect explosions in certain areas so they could pinpoint exactly where to go or where not to go in some cases. During the Cold War, it was used to detect nuclear explosions from enemy countries, whether they were testing it or not. Infrasound waves from these explosions could be detected from thousands of miles away. In 1998, Vic Tandy, an engineer from UK, one night he was sitting in his lab working on various things, obviously, and all of a sudden he had this uneasy feeling, like anxiety came over him for no reason. He couldn't figure out why. All of a sudden he felt anxiety, like someone was watching him. Thought he could see shadows at the corner of his eye in the lab. He was there alone at night, and he also felt a presence. After a bit of digging about and looking about his lab, he soon discovered that there was a 19 Hz standing frequency wave being generated in his lab, and he found the source to be a fan he had going at the time. He switched the fan off, used his equipment to detect it again to see if it could, and all of a sudden that frequency wasn't there, and lo and behold, the feeling of anxiety, the feeling of a presence in the room, all went away. And that was pretty much the first instance of the possibility of infrasound being the cause of most hauntings. Obviously, visual, if you see someone walking in front of your face, that's something different, and who knows what that could be. But the majority of people, when they say I think my house is haunted, they've heard bangs, they've seen things at the corner of their eyes, and they have that just horrible feeling of being watched. There's a presence in this room. I nearly died tonight, all that Zach Bagans and all that crap. There's a presence in this room. I can feel it. But what scientists think it could be is infrasounds. There's many natural sources of infrasound which we experience every single day. Supersonic aircraft, they generate infrasound at a certain hertz. The aurora generates infrasound. Satellite, space debris, all generate infrasound at a certain hertz. Earthquakes, they generate vibrations, obviously. and this is why infrasound is used to detect earthquakes. Nuclear explosions again can cause infrasound at a certain hertz. Thankfully, we don't have too many of them going these days. Airflow can generate infrasound at a certain hertz. So when you, like I said, when you're in a church, an open room, an abandoned place, there's not many things for those vibrations to bounce off, so that causes a low frequency hertz. Now the 20 hertz frequency, it can't be detected by the human ears. We can detect it in vibrations in our eyeballs. This is why we see like little glimpses on the corner of our eyes. The body can detect those vibrations at the very low, you don't know it's happening, but your body's being vibrated. And this could cause the hairs on your arm to stand up, hairs on the back of your neck to stand up. Generally give you that uneasy feeling that you're being watched. Now when it comes to old buildings, abandoned buildings, churches, caves, basements, they're all pretty much open areas. Some of them are very acoustic in the way they're built, especially with churches. And infrasound can be caused by air conditioning units, wind passing through buildings, and low frequency hums from infrastructures, appliances, and stuff like that. There's actually been experiments done over the years, not by sometimes by paranormal people, but a lot of times by scientists, where they have actually had people stay in a room and they've pumped infrasound into the room at a certain frequency, like I said, the 20 hertz frequency. And they have reported being like, they felt like they were being watched, felt the presence in the room. They had visual hallucinations in the corner of their eyes. You could see shadows moving at the side of their view. Always just outside, and like I said, I've had this in the past. I think I've seen something, as soon as you turn, there's nothing there. It's because it's vibrating at the side of your eyes. I soon discovered that due to infrasound as well being pumped into a room, either deliberately or accidentally, that you could also hear whispers and distant voices. I've told this story before, but a good few years ago, now and again I get little bouts of insomnia, right? And it's horrible. But a couple of years ago, I remember I was up for about 26 or 27 hours at one point, a good few years ago now. And I hadn't long left work after not sleeping all night. I went to work. This place I used to work years ago, I had to walk like about a mile home to get home. And this was like early morning because I was on night shift. And I remember I was absolutely exhausted. My brain was buzzing because I just hadn't slept for so long. I had a weird auditory phenomena happen when I was walking home. I'll never forget it. When I was walking across the main road, down the main road, every car, it sounds funny when I say it, every car which passed, it sounded like the car engine was shouting my name. Every single time. That was because obviously, the vibrations from the car sounds was just messing with my ears because I hadn't slept. And, that again, once again, was my brain misinterpreting the vibrations going into my ears. So a lot of stuff can happen with vibrations. And that's what infrasound generally does. It messes with your auditory senses, your visual senses, your touch and feel. And this has been proven to be a case of a lot of supposed hauntings over the years. Now, when it came to paranormal teams experimenting with infrasound, there's been a lot over the years. I'm pretty sure I remember most haunted did it back in the day. Regardless of what they did in other things, they actually did they did an episode where they pumped infrasound into one room to see if they could induce a haunting. I can't remember the outcome of that. It was a long time ago. But Vic Tandy himself, the person who first connected infrasound to the possible cause of paranormal hauntings, he wrote a book called The Ghost in the Machine, and he went over in detail how infrasound can connect a lot of hauntings just through basic science and accidental frequencies being pumped into the room or the building they're in. TAPS Ghost Hunters, Jason Oars and what's the other guy's name? The hood guy, the hood tugging guy, I always forget his bloody name. And regardless of some of the stuff they found on that program, I was never a fan of that program myself. I found it a bit too cringe. But, they did at least experiment with infrasounds, and they did most of the time come to the outcome that it's possible that this haunting is being caused by the infrasound being pumped into this building. Richard Wiseman, a psychologist and a skeptic, he also did experiments, and he did it with a live audience. He did this quite a few times in the early 2000s. He had a live audience in a room pumped a load of infrasound into it, and he asked them to write down what they're feeling. And a high percentage of them said they felt a presence in this room, or they felt like they were being watched. They could see things at the corner of their eyes. He basically proved that it was the infrasound being pumped into the room, because there was also another group of people who had nothing pumped into the room and they didn't feel anything. Dr. Chris French, who actually appeared on Most Haunted, if I remember correctly, a few times back in the day, he also did experiments with infrasound. And once again, when they did these experiments, the people who they were conducting these experiments on with infrasound said they felt a presence, felt like they were being watched, and they had their anxiety always raised. That's the biggest thing people always say, when whether they knowingly experience infrasound or they unknowingly experience it, they always state that their anxiety levels hit a high level, and that's just that uneasy presence or uneasy feeling they have. Me, a skeptic, when I used to go urban exploring, I've been, like I said, I've said this many times, when I've been in like old World War II bunkers back in the day and just walking around on my own in the pitch black with nothing but a torch and a camera, even me, a skeptic, had that uneasy feeling, just dread, and is this something walking 20 feet behind me? I've had that going through old abandoned railway tunnels. When I was walking through those tunnels alone in the dark, was it infrasound making me feel like that, or was it just my human caveman brain just going back? No matter how skeptical you can be about things, there's always that little part of your brain saying, what if? So it could be that as well. Haunted Homes Project in the UK, they had actual houses rigged up with infrasound generators. Some of them weren't, some of them were. So they had control houses where they didn't pump anything into it, and they also had houses where they did pump into it. And as you can probably guess, the houses where they did pump the infrasound into, the people in that house felt like there was a presence there, or there was a haunted house. Now, the general consensus is that infrasound doesn't prove that ghosts don't exist. But what it definitely can do is that prove that with certain acoustics, certain shapes of buildings, houses, rooms, whatever, with appliances, electrical equipment, and just natural phenomena, that infrasound can cause a feeling of being haunted by a presence. So to list off, infrasound can trigger feeling of fear or unease, cause physical sensations, affect your perception with the eyes, the vibration of the eyes, and it can explain a lot of haunted houses. Now, like I said in the beginning, this doesn't account for all kinds of supposed paranormal hauntings. It can't create ghosts in front of you. Infrasound cannot create a full-bodied apparition in front of your eyes, be it a person, whatever. It can't do that. It doesn't account for all paranormal activity around the world. Other supposed paranormal activities, it doesn't account for that. Infrasound is limited to visual and auditory hallucinations. Now, obviously, the scientific community and the paranormal community, they have their disagreements when it comes to infrasound. Obviously, the scientific community equates infrasound to a lot of hauntings throughout the years. They've also proven it throughout the years. It wasn't just speculation. But then obviously you have the paranormal side of it, where they say, well, just because that's happening doesn't mean the place isn't haunted. And unfortunately, you can't prove either way. You can prove infrasound at a certain hertz is being pumped into a certain place. Like I said, either naturally or not. It doesn't account for, like I said, figures walking through walls and things being lifted. But again, that could be down to misremembering stuff at the time of the event. But what I will say, and I will say to all paranormal investigators, you can buy equipment very cheaply to detect infrasound. And I think this is one of the things probably that it's up to you how you do it, but every paranormal investigator should at least take some form of detection with infrasound, so they can at least rule out a certain room or house. If they go to a house and the person who lives there, or they say, I feel uneasy in this place, I feel a presence, get your detector out, maybe scan the building, scan the room to see if it is generating any infrasound at a certain hertz, which in this case is under 20 hertz. And that's it. That's a very brief history of the infrasound, and maybe it's something to look into when paranormal investigators go to places. They take stuff to detect the electromagnetic field. They take other equipment to detect various things, but nobody takes anything to detect infrasound. And I think it should be a tool that you want to incorporate into your paranormal investigations. If you are in the case that you want to debunk things or to account for certain feelings or visual and auditory phenomena. Just a quick video on what I think is an important part of paranormal investigation, which I don't see many people do these days. And yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you think. Do you think I'm full of shit? Do you think infrasound is bullshit? It is scientifically proven, mind, so, you know, if you do think that, that's a different conversation. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like if you like this video. Leave a sub if you're new to my channel. I do this quite often. That's it. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.